Hey golfers, I'm Drew Mahowald of Second Swing Golf out here at TPI with Lucas Bro, Titleist fitter. We've got some new utility irons, or long irons if you will, in our hands here for 2025. I know there's a big piece of this is the look of and how things have been refined, and there's actually some stories here of where they actually blend really well with the rest of the T-Series.
Correct.
So just get the ball rolling here, Lucas. Talk to me about the story here and what we're working with here.
When we did the video with the T-Series irons, we really talked about how they all look more similar to each other. So you can see that the 250U and the U505, our new utility irons, have a very similar look to the rest of the set and the 7 irons. So our big fitting philosophy out here is 3Ds, distance, dispersion, and descent. And our goal is in the longer iron category, how do we get players to maintain peak height so they can drop the ball on the green and stop it very quickly from a further distance away? And so we've got some bigger head options that are really going to help the player launch the ball in the air and get them to attack greens from that 200 plus yardage. So one of the really cool features are, in prior generations, the graphite option, the utility option of the T200 used to have 2 degrees weaker loft than that of the iron set. We've gone away from that, and now we have the same loft all the way through, whether it's a 250U or it's a T250. So that's one really nice feature for us as fitters. The U505, one of the biggest changes, if you guys can see on camera, how much wider the 1 iron is from the 4 iron. And so coming back to fitting philosophy, you want to have the smallest head in the most loft for as long as you can. And so one of the barriers that our players had, especially on tour, is they wanted the help from that U505. They wanted all that launch. They wanted all that height, but they didn't want to look at that such large package in the 4 iron position. And 4 iron tends to be our most changed golf club. That's the spot where a majority of our golfers are really starting to seek help from the tool, help from the technology. As you progress into the 3 iron, it gets a little larger. 2 iron a little larger. And of course, ending at the 1 iron is the largest of the 4. So you can see the stark contrast between these two. But when you're in this 1 iron position, you're looking for that chassis to get larger. Just like the reason your driver is larger than your fairway is larger than your hybrid. You're progressing from small to big. Couple new fun graphite options. We've got Tour 80 Graphite VF.
That's a fun one.
Really, really popular on tour, has been a really popular one in the consumer marketplace. So we're excited that we offer this as one of our premium options. And then we've refined the rest of the shafts to just match with what we're doing in the woods. So I think those will be really fun for you to hit today. And we'll work them in after we figure out your 7 iron composition. We'll hit some on the top end.
I really like and appreciate how Titleist really sees these as an extension of the iron set. And I think there's maybe a stigma out there in the industry that utility irons are kind of the lower launching club for that window in the bag. There's hybrids, there's high lofted fairway woods, there's all these options. But like utility irons are just like this low launcher. Whereas it seems like you guys are like, no, we're gonna make these an iron that is part of your iron set. Where a player like I said his name a bunch this morning, but Cameron Young has like 4 models in the bag, and one of them is a U505. Because it allows him, like you said, the height and the launch he needs to attack a green. So that's kind of, it's cool that is still the same mission with these. It's just a little bit stronger loft and longer golf club.
Now, you can use a 1 iron as kind of that stinger shot that you like off the tee, right? It's kind of like comparing somebody who needs an 8-degree driver versus someone who needs an 11-degree driver. The heads are the same size. The ball speeds are output differently, but if you need 11 and I need 8, you may play a 4 iron at the same height where I play a 1 iron. So it's all about mapping out what the player needs from the position and the chassis size and the ball speed. And that's really why coming out here and getting fit is so important, is because at the 4 iron and beyond, it's the area that we probably have the most skews for you to work through.
Exactly, well, these, again, they look fantastic, which we've gone through that already with the T-Series irons. They look phenomenal, but I'm ready to hit some golf shots here.
Awesome, let's do it.
We're back in the tour van at Second Swing Minnetonka. I'm joined by Jake Montgomery, and we're going to hit some of the Titleist long irons, but I want to first, Jake, get your opinion on how they look, because that was a big part of what Lucas talked about, was how they've refined the look, both not only with T250U, but also especially the U505.
Yeah, my first impressions with the 250, is that I expected it honestly to be a little bit bigger in head size than it is.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock. The people that are playing this version of the driving iron don't want some big, huge club. They want something that's going to look pretty good to them still to dress, but give them lots of forgiveness. The brushed steel look also is just classic.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks very Titleist. Down at the ball, you can definitely see the forgiveness, but it doesn't look cumbersome. It still feels like I can shape this left, right, hit it straight.
Yeah.
So, I think they knocked the look out of the park.
One thing in filming some different content with Lucas that he mentioned was, call it, 10 years ago, the shiny chrome was sort of the look. That was what everybody wanted. And now, obviously, they've gone away from that almost entirely, where you just have this brushed satin, kind of almost, muted in a sense, but still that silver Titleist branded look that is really clean, and the shape has also been really cleaned up. I think it's really good. Absolutely. So, all right, let's do some hitting here. What do we got first here? Is this the
that is the T250U.
T250U. All right. So this is these are both 3 irons we're going to hit.
Correct.
And then we've got the hazardous. This is I think the 5th gen, 80 gram. But my first thought with this club, I would be expecting it to go. I mean, that was maybe not perfect contact. I'd be expecting it to go though about that 235 carry probably to somewhere when I hit it well. But I do like how that one performed despite maybe not a perfect strike.
That sounded better.
A little better. Yeah.
Right on that number.
I'm curious what the difference is going to be in sound because of I know in the previous series when they had U505 and they had T200, the sound was way different.
Absolutely.
Because the U505 was so big, but they've really shrunk that size down for that one. That was hit really good.
Yeah, absolutely tagged that.
Yeah, I could play this club.
That's about as good as it gets with the driving iron. Still getting 100 feet of peak height, which is great. Because, I mean, again, the player that's playing this, they're going to be someone that's more kind of at your speed.
Right.
You still want to have some landing a lot of this club. It's a lot easier for a player like yourself to kind of flight one down.
Yeah.
But if you need to hit this high, it definitely seems like you can.
Yeah, it seems like there's especially with this club too, if someone really, like you mentioned it before, but if someone really wanted to work something, I was hitting a high fade with a couple shots there, you can really do that with this as well, which is a lot of players that use this and use it off the tee and they need to shape something or knock something down, they can do that. Yeah. I like both of those shots and how I think they went pretty much the same carry distance.
Yeah. Almost exactly the same carry, exact same peak height, relatively the same landing. I mean, that is very consistent for a ball that's carrying 240.
I mean, I also like, too, that the first shot, I think I maybe hit a little heavy, or it definitely wasn't in the center, and it's still, I think it ended up being like a 232 or 233 carry.
Yeah.
So to see that, the forgiveness here, too, despite kind of being the smaller of the long irons, is really good.
I also like that it still spun over 3,000 considering you hit it heavy.
That'd be another test to see how the spin is. Okay,
That's
kind of that's one I'll get away with on the golf course.
Was that a little out of the toe as well?
It definitely was out the toe, a little heavy, a little towards the toe. But I mean, if we're going to talk about, obviously the carry suffered because I hit it not so great.
Yeah.
Or the carry distance went down, but the total distance didn't really change much on that one.
No.
So I like that miss actually a lot. That's one I'm going to definitely accept on the golf course.
Absolutely.
Let's look at those numbers, see what we got for
Let's take a
averages,
peek.
and then we can kind of compare with U505. So we've got, we had those first couple that were kind of that sort of high cut. But then after that, I centered things up a little bit.
So the first thing that sticks out to me here is a land angle 4 straight at 41 degrees.
That
good. Is ridiculously consistent.
Yeah.
Peak height within a 2-foot window on all 4 of those. This one we caught a little high on the face and a little chunky. Just didn't spin as much, so we kind of lost some peak height on that guy. But I mean, you want to talk about windows kind of for certain players in their bag.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a club that's going 100 feet in the air, the 41 land angle, you know it's going to do that every single time. Even if you hit it right, dead center, the flight on it was really consistent.
Yeah, what I like too, like you mentioned, I had a couple of varying, strikes, right? I had a 143, 143. Then I hit 2 that were just absolutely smoked right in the center of the club face. But nothing much changed there. They're a little bit more spin just because it was hit better, and there was more speed to the ball. It added a few carry yards, but there wasn't again, the ball flight was basically the same height, same landing angle. That part's really good. And then of course the miss, certainly I lost some height, I lost some carry distance, but when it rolled out, it actually stayed right there with the other ones.
100%.
So, I like what I see from this guy right now.
Yeah, I mean that's very consistent performance for a driving iron.
Let's see what the U505 has here.
Let's do it.
U505. Yeah, they've really slimmed this thing down.
Yeah.
It looks so much better. You can see, a little bit of sort of the mass behind the top line, a little bit, but not nearly as much as you did with the previous generation.
No, yeah, I mean in the previous generations, it almost looked like a hybrid at times. So
yeah,
it had a very wide sole.
It was, and they, you talk to Lucas or you talk to Tom Fisher, any of the people at Titleist, and they will admit that it was large, and you could hear, with the sound as well, and it was impacted. So, but this is just way more clean. Wow. That was hit hard. If that doesn't turn too much, oh yeah.
Good ball. That launched a lot higher.
Yep.
That's kind of what you expect to see out of this club. This has a much lower center of gravity. A player like myself, if I were to play a driving iron, it would be something more like that just makes it easier to get up in the air. There's a reason that we always have you hit these driving irons because I just don't really get them airborne.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's one thing that I'm actually curious about with, how these are going to be in the fitting bay because, when it looks so big and large, it generally means it's because it's a higher launching club. Their center of gravity way low and back. And so if they can keep up the performance that the U505 had previously, but in this slimmed down package, that's going to be awesome for them.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a huge win, right? Because I think just based on looks, my theory is that they've actually brought these closer together in performance, and sometimes they might overlap, say, in a fitting where you might not tell a major distinct difference. Yeah. So if they can keep the differences there where this is higher launching and giving players that window they're looking for, it's going to be really good. That was hit hard.
Tell you what, you are flushing this thing.
Yeah.
There's the height.
Yep.
46 land angle from a 3-iron. That's not too bad.
That first swing for sure was more of a draw swing. So look at my path numbers. That when I was like, I'm going to straighten this out or hit a cut even. I'm not getting 118 feet with the 250U, I don't think.
No.
I mean, I'm hitting center of the face here almost every time.
126 in the air.
Yeah. This thing's,
we're definitely seeing the difference between the two.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. So this thing, we saw that launch go up. On average, the height was up. I mean, we're talking about landing angles that are up near 45 on a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, we saw plenty of height from this club. It's about 18 feet higher in the air. Land angle was 4 degrees steeper. A little bit more spin, but the biggest difference really was the launch and especially the ball speed. Yeah. You did swing it a hair faster, but I mean, that smash factor is it's up a good bit. We're only talking about 0.03, but at the top end of ball speed, those margins are pretty big. 5 miles an hour of ball speed is no joke. If we switch it to carry, you can see, I mean,
look how consistent the U505 is there too.
100%, 1.3 yards variation.
Yeah, 1.3 variation on those 5 shots.
316 RPMs of spin.
Yeah.
I mean, both of these options are very consistent. We had 12 feet of variation with the T250 and 14 with the 505.
Depends, I mean, to me, based on just hitting a few with each here, it depends on what you're looking for out of your long iron in your bag.
Absolutely.
I mean, I do think this showed us a pretty distinct difference, but I think it also showed us that they're both very effective as well. Because again, if you're looking for a little bit more spin, a little bit more launch, you're the type of player that just can't stand a metal or a hybrid, and you want an iron. This is the one for you that's going to launch high and kind of try to give you something similar in terms of trajectory that you might look out of or might want out of those clubs. But if you're trying to flight something down, you have a ton of speed, ton of skill maybe to work the ball as well. It seems like T250 might be the best one, but I guess obviously if The only way to find out is to hit them yourself. So.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Jake, testing complete there with the Titleist long irons from the 2025 T-Series launch. We've got T250U and the U505.
Yeah.
Just from the testing, I guess, what was your first impressions and your initial reactions?
Yeah, I mean, I think they knocked these out of the park. The biggest complaint, especially for the 505, was the sound. They cleaned that up a lot. I mean, how did it feel?
Felt great. Yeah, it felt great. I actually didn't really notice much of a difference, but I think was, as I mentioned, part of the interesting, maybe, strategical approach by Titleist was making these a little more similar than in the past. Yeah. But I think they're based on the performance, there are still some distinct differences. And so with that, let's get into who each of them is for, right? So we'll start with the U505 in your hand right there. Yep. Talk about the player that I guess you most likely are going to be fitting this club into.
Yeah, so this is going to be a moderate to high-speed player, someone that does not like hybrids but is still looking for a lot of peak height and land angle. This is definitely the model between the two that I would go with. I would say the weakest loft or weakest flex I'm probably going to fit this to is stiff, because you still do need a good amount of club head speed to get this ball or get the ball up in the air. Yeah. But this iron we saw definitely can launch and has some pretty good land angle from it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I have a pretty high swing speed relative to most players, so it was able to launch plenty high for me, probably almost too high if you're to, trying to hit that 100 feet window, right? Yeah. There were a lot that were actually higher than that. But in the T250U now, it seems like, at least in terms of the ball flight and the height and stuff, that was a little bit more my speed. Talk to me about this one and the players that are most likely going to play.
Yeah, so that's a player where anything besides the driving iron just flat out goes too high in the air. Yeah. So most likely just really, really high ball speeds. Can be some players that have excess spin, but for the most part, that's going to be kind of your high-speed club head. It's designed to flight that ball down, reduce spin, and give you shot shape ability.
Yeah, and then one thing we also talked about with Lucas as well, and some of the content we filmed, was that this can also be, if you're a really skilled player or a serious player, you might have 15 or 16 clubs. And this could be one you interchange based on course conditions, course setup. If you need to have maybe a lower ball flight versus a 7-wood in your bag, you have one of these kind of on standby for that reason. So there's that possibility with these as well. But I think overall they look awesome. Just as a T-Series, as they really refined the look, and I think they did a great job with it. Yep. And then two great options here. I think last thing is to make sure you go get fit. Schedule your fitting, whether it's for the entire iron set, whether it's just for this long game part of the bag that you got to dial in. Get with someone like Jake. We'll get you figured out, get you dialed in, and you'll be hitting better golf shots at this part of the bag. So thank you, Jake, so much for the information today.
No problem.